All right, that's fair. This is pretty much a good enough start. So, welcome to my Magrider Overview. Basically, I'm gonna just start off with this disclaimer. My goal is to get you guys to think when you're in armor, or specifically the Magrider. I don't have a magic, you know, I don't have a magic training or a book or a document or anything that will just instantly make you better. The biggest piece of advice I'm going to give you is that if you want to get better at the Magrider, frequently pull them, as in play your tank more often and get as much seat time as you can possibly stand. The more seat time you get with the Magrider, the better you will become. So what I'm going to be talking about is just getting you in the mindset and getting you to think when you're in the Magrider. And you'll be able to take some of this stuff and slightly tweak it and apply it to a lightning and apply it to if you're if you're cross faction or whatever and you're in another MBT, you'd be able to take this same concept and just apply it elsewhere. So the first thing to touch on is knowing how to pick an engagement. And what I mean by that is like pick your targets. If you pick the right targets, you'll be alive longer. So you should just ask yourself when you look at your loadout, if you're an AP Magrider with a Halberd or a Saron, you know you're going to be hunting armor, and you know that if you fuck with anything else like infantry or whatever, you're not going to be as effective with that type of loadout. So the same applies if you're running a Hesh Cobalt loadout or even a Heat Cobalt loadout. You know that if you come across armor because of your Cobalt or because you're running Hesh, you're going to be not as effective against armor, so you won't be able to take your target down as quickly. The other thing too that I'm assuming, or that it will at least help your gameplay out specifically with the Magrider just because it suffers so bad, having a gunner. I can't stress that enough. Just having an extra gunner, someone that is just gunning for you, puts a whole other weapon to use, whatever it is, even if it's a Basilisk. It's like adding a free force multiplier to your vehicle. Because the biggest trait with the Magrider is it has 1,000 more hit points than, say, a Lightning. Yeah, you might not be able to pull it at every base, and that's a con, but when you throw in a Halberd or a Saron, that's all extra damage, and that helps you take down a target more quickly. So having a gunner basically makes your Magrider 100% combat effective. If you don't have a gunner, you're pretty much running at 50% combat effectiveness. That's like the layman's terms of this. Whenever you are engaging, you always want to, specifically with the Magrider too, you always want to engage on your terms. And what I mean by that is you want to have the superior cover and the positioning, whether that's close quarters, mid, or long range. You want to just pick your fight and stick to it. You don't want to get baited into a fight, where you're engaging multiple targets or whatever, because it'll help you live longer and you'll likely be more successful taking out your target. It seems like common sense, but for whatever reason, people lose that common sense when they jump in the vehicle. They stop thinking about everything around them and they just start shooting at everything. And the opposite is true. You want to just pick a target and laser focus it until you can no longer engage it, or you have to respond to something that's around you. Respond something around you meaning like another threat, immediate threat. So always set yourself up for a 1v1 situation, and if you could set yourself up to where you can be a 2v or a 3v1 and put more odds in your favor, then do that. Run with someone else. Find another tank that appears to be doing the same thing. Don't necessarily follow them around, but if you stick nearby, you can generally cover each other indirectly without even formally communicating. So that all will help you stay alive, just like knowing your loadout, picking your fights. And another huge thing, and it's something that I tend to not use as often as I should, but like the minimap. we get laser focused on what's in front of us. Just glance at the minimap, because if another vehicle is sneaking up behind you, fires and misses, it should still show up on the minimap behind you, and then you'll know, oh shit, there's something behind me. Or if a friendly spots it, it'll show up on your minimap. You can really quickly assess and know whether you need to pull off the fight that you made and re-engage some other time, or ignore it and keep going. So sometimes living to fight another day is not always a bad thing here. So that's like picking engagements. I might have mentioned terrain use in there. That's another big part I wanted to talk about. Part of becoming better with the Magrider is to use the terrain around you. Doesn't mean you'll post up on a hill and fire down. I don't know. Honestly, it's kind of like a really lazy, shitty way of saying how to play the Magrider. You can do that. It's fine. It's viable, but it's not the only way to play the Magrider. It's just an extremely lazy way that veterans tend to tell tankers this is how you should play it. It is a strategy, but it's not the only strategy. And there's a lot more to it than just parking up on an exposed hill and firing down. Hills should always be peaked, retreating back down for cover, and then you should always be looking for things like rocks, valleys, irregular terrain, anything that you can hide the hull of your tank under, so that you can poke out, fire, and then dip right back in the cover. The less you make yourself a target, the better off you'll be. Before I move on, I'm going to open up my stream here. And I'm going to stream my desktop real quick. And I got a clip here that I'll stream just for a few minutes here. Where is it? I think it's at like 5 minutes. Yeah, about right here. This is just a random match I got with Goalkeeper, and we just were tanking. He was working on, I forgot what he was working on. He was working on something, and I was like, fuck it, I'll drive you around. He needed something for the gunner, and I think I'm trying to get a directive done. I need gunner kills or whatever. But we're engaging 2 Colossus. Right now, I'm kind of sitting at range, and I'm just trying to hammer the shield, but as you can see, I got it's the traverse, and a piece of the roofing's in the way. I'm hitting the Colossus' shield. I'm going to go back here again, but I'm trying to hit the Colossus' shield because you could drain the Colossus' shield just by shooting at it, and it'll get them the fuck off and hopefully reposition. It takes time for it to recharge. It's not instant. And when their shield's up, they're not going to move. They're completely immobile. So in this situation, I kind of know what's going on with the enemy, right? If we move along here, I kind of go around this hill here, and I start shooting at this Reaver. It's the only target I see. I don't end up hitting him. I hit him a little later. But if you keep watching here, the Colossus shield goes down. They undeploy and move, so I force them to displace, which is fine. There were 2. Right here, you'll see, you can't hear it, but I'm relaying that there's 2 Colossus at the traverse to command, even though I'm solo, just like, hey, just so you know. And I'm trying to move to a better firing angle, because back there I was firing between a friendly construction base that was still up, ironically enough. But here, I kind of park up on a hill that's a little bit exposed, but the Colossus can't fire down on me. He's not even looking at me right now, and I'm terribly missing some shots here. But then he turns and sees me, and if you notice, I immediately duck back down the hill, and I'm trying to hit him while also not trying to take damage. So I'm kind of moving in an erratic pattern. That is something that you want to do with the Magrider. So I'll back up here again. Let me see. I'll go back here. See, he notices me, and then I immediately just start backing back down, and I'm using the hill. Let me pause when I'm back down the hill. So like right here, I have very little of the Magrider exposed, or as little as I can in this situation, right? You'll never be perfect, but the goal is just to expose less of your tank. You become a harder target to hit. So he notices, we start hammering him, and then I kind of back off and take another pot shot. I hit the Reaver that I talked about, and that's because I don't want to get harassed, but I switch targets, seeing as I'm going nowhere. And really what I'm trying to do here is just hold the Colossus's attention, because if he's focused me, he's not focused anywhere else. I don't hit that Reaver, just miss him. But what ends up happening is that Colossus gets fed up with me harassing him, and he ends up fucking off somewhere else. I believe a lightning comes over and wipes me out that I don't see on the map. I don't remember if this one's the... I had a couple clips that I had ready for this, but I chose this. But as you can see, they're having a hard time hitting me. Everything else that was hitting me was, yeah, there's the lightning. See, nothing popped up on the map, I think. And I believe my gunner missed one shot, and we would have had him otherwise. But if I go later on, let me zoom around here. Boom, boom, back. Let's see, we drive up. Thought I had it time stamped. My apologies. I believe I laid down a waypoint. Yep, I did. So I laid down a waypoint where we died last, and then listened to where he went. But we continued hammering this Colossus again. Same thing. Had his shield up, didn't move. And we just kept hammering him. And again, just to get him to displace. And again, I'm trying to stay at a distance and use cover. Now here, if you notice, I'm not in direct cover. There's nothing in front of me on the right side of your screen. But relative to the target, since my goal is to hammer the shield, I'm standing and I'm using the rock that's in front over here that kind of just blocks line of sight from their end. So you kind of have to just wing this stuff. I don't want to say this is all shit that goes through my mind when I'm playing. It's just little things that you pick up on over time. I'm by no means a tank ace. I just make effective use of cover when I can. And the more aware you are of it, the better of a player you'll be. I like to think that I'm fairly casual when I approach armor. I don't consider myself a sweaty armor player that forces certain loadouts or play styles or whatever. But here, just with a gunner and making some smart use of a terrain, we really fuck up a Colossus that doesn't have a lot of support. I'm going to zoom past here, but we basically move up. We hammered the Colossus a little bit around this corner, and then I switched to the Lightning. And what ends up happening is another Magrider somewhere on the mini-map spots a Colossus, moves in, and kind of helps us. There he is. And we go in and just move up, because he has no help. You can tell he has no help. And my gunner ends up getting the kill. Now, if we watched a whole video verbatim, it really was pretty much us causing the Colossus to displace and us just relentlessly hammering him at a decent range. So again, that's what effective use of cover is. I got one more that's a lot shorter and a lot more direct of using cover, and it happens to be on another Colossus, and this was actually right after we took out that one. I believe this was the other NC Colossus. It was at the containment site we ran across it. Yeah, there he is. So I get his attention. He sees me trying to use the corner. He undeploys and then decides to start pushing. But if you see here, the only issue with this position is because of the angle I'm up on, I could not get my gunner a firing angle. And sometimes that's just a price you pay, depending on the type of weapon. Like this one was a Saron, which doesn't have a lot of gun depression. So firing angles come into play here, but I play this ramp to make myself harder to shoot at and to hopefully poke at him. And you see he tries to push but can't get the gun depression that I can. So he decides to go around. I believe I zoom over him. We die here. We don't take him out, but we harass the shit out of him is the point. Like, we did way more damage than we should have. And that was like solo. We had no help. So you could do a lot, is my point, with effective use of armor or terrain. So that leads me to one more thing to go over. Two more things, really. Enemy tanks. Unfortunately, the examples I had were Colossus. I'm not here to really go over that too much, but like, if you were engaging a Vanguard, for example, it has 1,000 more health and deals slightly more damage than the Magrider, but it has a forward shield that can mitigate damage. You'll learn that with a Vanguard, you almost have to go for a rear shot and dodge like 2 shells to successfully engage it, and just hope that it doesn't have a gunner and hope that it's not moderately competent. So Vanguards are really dangerous for Magriders. You always want to try and 2v1 them if you can, and if you're going to 1v1 them, then you need to be extremely confident in your ability to, and you almost want to definitely get the jump and get some rear shots and prioritize that. You could peck at them, but I would peck at them at range because they have enough damage mitigation to where they can pretty much throw their shield up, charge you, and hit you. And if you can't CQC a Magrider very well, they're going to eat you alive if they're halfway competent. So Vanguard's dangerous because of their damage mitigation. This is kind of learning your targets that you're going up against. Prowlers, on the other hand, people are probably going to shoot me for saying this, but we are a little more on the even playing field with Prowlers, mainly because they have the same amount of damage. They don't have... It's not common they have the ability to mitigate damage. They have a shield option that mitigates damage, but I rarely see it. They tend to keep you at range, though, is their issue. Their strength is damage per minute. You have to use cover if you're engaging them at long range. They will generally be a little bit superior at long range if they're pretty good. You'll as you tank more, you'll kind of learn names and see tags, and you'll kind of know how to like engage them. Like, for example, if you see a Pigs Prowler, you know they're probably running heat, and you know they're probably absolutely fucking terrible, and they're a Cert Pinata, so you just hammer them. But if you see a 784 Prowler, or you see a Crimson Faust and a Prowler 3 tag, then you know you're kind of fucked if you even mess with them, because those are competent tankers that are really good. So again, like, and you can apply this with Vanguards too. Outfit tag, players, you can gauge just on those quick things through playing armor. Even when you're solo or in a group, you'll learn like who's good, who's bad, or who's okay. And anyway, but back to the Prowler. Mainly, you just have to ensure in both situations, Prowler Vanguard, you avoid taking damage and you dodge their rounds and you land yours. Really winning any engagement, if you dodge shots, land your shots, you will win the engagement generally, regardless of the amount of damage mitigation or any ability that they had. I mean, I just showed you 2 clips where a single Magrider basically harassed a manned Colossus. I mean, there's 5 people in that Colossus with the ability to rep, and they chose to basically not even do that and not have support. That's huge that they didn't have support, and yes, that is a factor, but that comes with reading the battlefield around you, which is why you kind of need to do that. The last one I'll touch on, chimeras. Chimeras are sleepers. A lot of people talk shit about them. They're a large target, yes, but because people sleep on them and don't label them as a threat, if they get close to you and they're halfway competent, they will fuck you up. They hit hard, they hit fast. So my advice when engaging chimeras, just don't sleep on them. Like if you see one and you have the choice and it's an easy engagement in your eyes and you want to just take it out, just take it out. It's another MBT off the field. It's one less target shooting at you. Like just don't ignore them just because it's chimera. Just take it out. Don't sleep on it. Same thing. Like if you see one on a flank and you think it has a potential of flanking you, shift targets. You know, and that's with like any MBT. If you think something's flanking you, pull off whatever engagement you made in your mind for 1v1 and change targets. You know, don't be afraid to do that. That leads me to changing targets. Kind of leads me into the next thing I want to talk about. No one's perfect. We all are going to take damage. We're going to die. We're going to repull. It's fine. I mean, I have nights I log on and I go 30 and 15 or 30 and 8, and sometimes I log on and I've had runs where I'm 45 and like 3. It really just depends on the map conditions, who's running, what time of day, all of that stuff. But I say that because knowing when to repair, when to retreat will keep you alive longer in armor. A common strategy is to just watch your health. I would say with the Magrider, if you start to hit at like 3,000 health, you have to start thinking about, okay, I need to fall back, start getting reps up. And if you hit 2,500, then you need to pretty much completely disengage and try and get healed up. And if you're not disengaging, then you need to have an ability that keeps you in the fight longer, like fire suppression, auto rep grenade, and be running like nanite auto repair. Something that like if you don't take any more damage, that you're gonna auto heal and you don't need to bail out and rep. Because every time you bail out and rep, yes, that comes with the risk on its own. But repairing and retreating will keep you in the fight longer. And knowing when to do those things in engagements, like for example, if a prowler sees you first and you miss him and they hit you with 2 shots and you respond by dipping back in the cover, but he has to cross terrain to get to you and you see him closing in, if you and your gunner are working together, you could bail out and fix that damage and hop back in and be able to successfully either evade or re-engage the prowler and be at full health, or vanguard or whatever have you. So managing your health, knowing when to repair, knowing when to retreat. If you crest the hill and there's 20 fucking prowlers there because it's an AOD armor column, well, it's your funeral if you decide to engage it. You can engage it all day long. They might ignore you, or, they might all turn around and fire at you, and it's a quick death. And then I fucked up. Just to clear up, I'll finish this out with the main cannons for the mag. There was someone in here earlier that I was just talking to that had, they have a chimera, so I'll touch on those as well while they're here. Heat, AP, and Hesh all have the same characteristics across the factions, so the same applies. Heat is not inherently bad. In fact, it is the most flexible choice. The key with Heat, and if you're a new player in here, I encourage you to unlock Heat reload speed. Heat stays competitive with its follow-up shot. And what I mean by that is, in the case of the Magrider, if you fire a single round of Heat, it's 550 damage. Now, if we're talking tank combat, typically, if you're in a tank and you're engaging, you hit a tank, it's going to dip back in the cover after the first shot, generally. That's when they're really good. So, in that sense, 550 is not a lot when you compare it to AP, which hits for 750. So, on a single shot basis, yes, AP does more. Heat shines for 2 reasons. One, if you get a follow-up shot of Heat, because it only has like 2.5 second reload, something like that. it will reload a second round before a second round of AP is reloaded. And if you sneak that second shot into a Prowler or a Vanguard, you are effectively doing 550, and 550 is okay. I suck at math. That's like 1100. It's over 1,000 damage, and you did that basically sacrificing 200 damage by not running AP. But Heat also has the ability to engage infantry a little better. You don't have to like directly snipe them. It has a tiny bit of splash, but not as much as Hesh. Hesh, look at it as the complete counterpart to AP, but it's strictly infantry. It does 100 damage less than AP, but you get like twice. You get a ridiculous amount of splash, and that's where it shines, is splash damage. But on a single shot basis against armor, and don't quote me on this because I'm not a damn scientist. Yes, there's damage resistance types and everything, but when you hit something with Hesh, it's 650, you're going to do 650 damage. So a single shot of Hesh in that scenario is going to do more damage than Heat. But what comes into play is that second follow-up shot due to the reload times. So again, it's all purely situational. They're not all the weapons are not all inherently bad. They're just utilized wrong most of the time. Like Osher, I tend to run Hesh on the Magrider more because there's a shit ton of infantry and open field fights. And you just saw in some of the clips there, even that medium to moderate range, I'm hitting maybe, I don't know, I got a vehicle accuracy of 40%, so I'm going to assume that's pretty accurate. So half the time I'm missing, the other half I'm hitting. So I might as well have Hesh so I can hit infantry. And if I don't want to have Hesh, then I might as well run Heat. It's going to come down to preference. The point of me telling you guys this is ignore the banter of Heat versus AP versus Hesh. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. AP's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it. Heat is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it. Hesh can be fantastic. There's really nothing wrong with it. It's just how they are used. They are designed for specific situations. So one thing I will go over, Chimera. If you have an NSO, it's pretty relevant. Chimera has one cannon. I forget what it's called. I want to say it's a Steyr. It is basically like the Viper cannon. It's the rapid fire one. It deals more damage than the Viper's main cannon does, but behaves pretty much the same. So that one is great for like close quarters. There's no other, really, there's only the Lightning compared to. No other Empire has that. Then the AP on the Chimera, again, I don't know what it's called verbatim, but the AP cannon on the Chimera is the muzzle velocity on it matches the Vanguard. All the Vanguard's main cannons have a 275 meter a second, so the round travels a lot quicker, time to target, compared to all the other Empires, which are like 250, 225, depending on what it is. So that's another strength to the Chimera that people sleep on, time to target. And then its Heat is just like all the other ones. Fast reload, solid damage. Just got to get the follow-up shot. Chimeras do not have Hesh, so you don't have to worry about running Hesh when you're on the Chimera. It doesn't exist. Not yet, at least. But I'll conclude this. It's 6:30. I've talked for about 30 minutes. I'll conclude this with one last thing. Magriders. I said this at the start. The only way you get better with Magriders is you pull them and you play them. Whether you play solo, whether you message someone, hey, you want a gun for me, and you run around that way. That's the only way you're going to get better. There's not going to be a magical guide, training, or video that I could show you, or even an individual that I can pair you up with. A Mag 3 guy, which Mag 3 is like the pinnacle of mag riding. That and like Vindicators. Vindicators are really good too. I could pair you up with those guys, and they won't even make you a good driver. You have to play it to get better. For the newer players in here, the people that don't understand the Magrider, it's a fixed weapon system. Your left and right movement when you're aiming doesn't matter. You can move the mouse left and right all day. That gun is not moving left or right. You have to move the whole tank to move your crosshair left or right. You can only adjust elevation up and down. So you almost want to pay attention to where the round goes each time, and not so much are you moving left or right, because your round is going to travel in a straight line, or arc, I should say, every single time, because of the fact it's a fixed weapon system. It's the only tank in the game right now that's like that. It's as much a pro as it is a turnoff for people, and why people struggle so much with the Magrider, because of that fixed weapon platform. Last piece of advice, Magrider. You saw me doing it when I was in cover. Just kind of move in and out of cover and move erratically. Try not to stay in any predictable left-right movement, but moving around at range. Think about if you're on the other side. It's harder to hit a moving target, especially one that's moving around erratically, peeking in and out of cover, than it is to hit a stationary target. There are a lot of new drivers that I see that pick a Magrider up, and they treat it like a lightning, because that's all they know how to play. They pull up to a hill and they stand still. And you're a lot bigger of a target than you are in a lightning as a Magrider. So you want to constantly just move around. And if you can master that moving around and being comfortable moving around constantly while shooting, you'll be that much more effective. It'll completely change your gameplay for the Magrider, just simply using cover and moving around more often. Predicting shots, like where a shot will come, when it will come. I mean, you can really dive down the rabbit hole here. So the point of this whole training is just to take a think tank and a deep dive into, what it takes to be an effective tanker, right? I don't want to go in game and just mindlessly drive around, because you can do that anyway. And there's nothing, I'm not going to sit here and have a magical keystroke pattern that's going to make you better. It's really just aiming, using cover, and, knowing all the little things, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing that of your opponent, and knowing when to, repair, retreat, all that good stuff. I'm checking to see if I missed anything I wanted to go over. Quick little thing, Magriders, I mean, SKL likes to win their alerts. We like to win our alerts. Magrider has inherent ability compared to other MBTs where we could get into places it shouldn't. So experiment, because you can really drive on the point. You can put a Hesh Cobalt loadout and then drive up to an A point and sit there where it shouldn't be and farm infantry. There's multiple uses for it outside of armor combat. You can use it as a heavy support vehicle. So it's just an idea over there. But it's now 6:35. I do want to take some time for anyone